Hey everyone, this is Scott Levin, Chief Peacekeeper. I'm here with Bassford. Sorry. John wrote a book called The Co-Parenting Secret, but it's not necessarily his day-to-day job in the co-parenting world. He has a really interesting background. He has a big business. He's a someone that we're going to learn about right now. But John, what led you to kind of delve into the co-parenting and thought-provoking in the family law space? How did you enter that? How did you decide to do that?
Sure. So, I mean, actually, simply, I was constantly being asked, how is co-parenting with your ex-wife? Because a lot of people knew that our relationship did not end the best. And I got tired of saying, great, we could write a book on co-parenting. And so I actually decided to do it.
That's awesome. So did you write it from like beginning to end?
Yeah. So, I really take people through a journey. I start with my personal story, growing up in a two-home situation, talk about our situation, me and my ex-wife, because I think it's important, when you read some of the stuff in my book about what we've been able to create in co-parenting, it sounds like a fairy tale. My ex-wife came to my current wife's wedding. So did her parents. So did her uncles. Right? We sit next to their sporting events, and I didn't want to paint this picture that we just had this fairy tale separation in marriage, and talked about how there was a lot of bitterness, there was anger when we got divorced, when we separated, hashing everything out. But once that all ended, we were very, very intentional about what kind of co-parent relationship we wanted to start.
If you mind me asking, did you navigate the divorce process in out of court, like in mediation, or with two lawyers and kind of in the court process?
Yeah, so even kind of backing up before that, I mean, we spent the last 4 to 6 years of marriage and counseling, and agreed to divorce in counseling. And then we both got our separate attorneys, hashed everything out. And there was really just kind of two sticking points: custody and the house buyout. That we took a little time to hash out. It took about 4 months from the time we agreed to separate to the separation agreement was final. But we once all that was done, and we submitted to the courts, and here in Montgomery County, Maryland, once you submit your separation agreement, you just go to
Yeah.
court and have that rubber stamped, right? So it's a pretty easy process once we agreed on everything.
How do you have did you have more than one kid or one kid at the
Just one
time?
kid, one kid, one and done.
And I'm not trying to pry too much. I'm just trying to get an understanding of like, what was he a teenager? Was he young, like less than 8 or 10, or where was
Oh,
he?
young. He was a year and a half when we separated.
Okay.
So he has only known a two-home environment.
Wow. That's pretty interesting. I mean, I deal with as a mediation lawyer, my wife is a co-parenting specialist, so her and I help people do what you do, what you've accomplished, kind of on the daily. But a lot of those folks, you know, uh, generally kind of have like, hey, we're not going to do like 90-10 custody, right? Like they've already kind of have like an understanding of some sort that like they're there to like, both be in the kids' lives. So it's much harder when obviously that's not the case. It's pretty awesome that you guys were able to navigate. What are some of the pitfalls that you didn't know about when you first did your settlement that came up later that you had to navigate without, the attorneys or without any professionals, or unless are you still doing like co-parenting courses together?
No, so we never did any courses or anything. Even in the book, I talk about creating a co-parenting plan, but was very honest that we did not have one. I talk about co-parenting plan and giving some suggestions on how to create one and what to put in there. But we just kind of learned as we went along. And for us again, it was really just mainly two issues there at the end, which was buy out of the house and the custody. And quite frankly, I wanted to try to get as close to 50-50 custody as possible. Just again, for my upbringing of an 80s kid in divorce, it was your typical mom had
Yeah.
education, health, physical, sick, carpool, and dad had every other weekend for fun, with
Yeah.
no real responsibilities, right? And that's kind of how I saw that arrangement. And I didn't want that. I knew that if I was given the out of not having real responsibility, I wouldn't. And I didn't
Yeah.
want that. I wanted my son to have a different relationship with me. And so we came to an agreement, ended up being 60-40. But now, actually, with some changes we made, it's almost exactly 50-50, if not leaning my direction a little bit more. Because I also do, because I'm self employed, consultant, work from home. she's a pediatric nurse practitioner with patients. So if there's a sick day, a snow day, whatever, I
Yeah,
take
you're
leave
on
because I
call.
have the flexibility.
Yeah. What do you think about in mediation or when I'm talking to people about like why mediation and all that, uh I often say like, listen, when you have a custody like parenting terms put on you by a court or another lawyer, you don't abide by them basically. Like you kick and scream after the divorce and you show up late, you don't trade up, you take more time, you do what you want because you had someone tell you how you were going to parent. What are your thoughts about that? Do you think that people that are able to kind of set their plans together at the beginning are able more so to follow through on those plans?
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. Again, for the most part, we came, ended up coming to a pretty good agreement on how everything would work. And again, we came to the very intentional understanding that we were both going to be in each other's lives, like families, everything. Like we're all going to sporting events, we're all going to school events, right? There was no your time and my time; it was our kids' time, right? So again, coming into that intentional agreement of how we want to play this out absolutely makes a difference. And I will even say on the flip side of that, when you go into creating an intentional co-parent relationship where it just gels well, all the initial agreements just go out the window, right? Because you're there for each other. You help out when she needs help. She helps out when you need help. And you obviously never tell anyone to disregard a legal document or court document here, but when it truly is working well and gelling, all the legal stuff goes away.
Yeah, no, I agree. I mean, it's kind of like if the shit hits the fan agreement, really.
Yeah,
Like
right.
if you aren't aligned, if your communication breaks down, at least having a plan, make sure that you know when you're going to have Thanksgiving or what days you're going to have. One of the things that comes up, obviously, like especially when the kids are like yours was real young and if mom is still breastfeeding or like the kids when they're like 1 2 are still with mommy 4 5,
Mhm.
they can kind of transition to daddy but people with really young kids don't know that transition is coming. But one of the things that I really don't like from the perspective of a child is when someone has an every other weekend, or when a dad in particular has an every other weekend sort of custody situation, is that he's not or that person, he or she is not interacting with the school at all. And that's a huge part of growing up. And if you don't know, if the teacher never sees you, you're not on the school email list, like you're
Mhm.
basically just, you're not an active parent. And that's the thing that I always try to stress, like, okay, if that's really what you guys want, like I'm going to write it down, right? Who am I? But maybe can we just do Thursday? Because then at least dad's dropping off on Friday morning. He's seeing the parent. He's got some stake in that in the school system. What are your thoughts about that?
Yeah, I mean, I completely agree. Again, and again, this is no shame on my dad, but that relationship, our dad, like I'd say, my dad wasn't a parent.
Yeah.
And again, that it was, I think it was a product of society at the time. That's just what was done. And I mean, I have to probably admit that my dad probably didn't want more than that at the time either. Not to get him off, scot free, but yeah, like I think there's two things, right? There's that relationship, which again, I grew up in the '80s where I would not call it parenting from the dad side. Then you have parallel parenting where each parent is doing their complete opposite own thing and there isn't that cohesion. And then there's the co-parenting, which is really the best way to do it to create that cohesive environment for your kids.
Yeah. No, I like that. I mean, I think it's really cool that you put the book out. It's got 5 stars on every platform. I read some of the reviews because I don't believe that anyone's telling the truth in reviews, but they were all like spread out. They looked like really legitimate. They had like what do they call it on Amazon? Like author or I guess
Verified purchase, yeah.
yeah, verified purchase. Yeah, so it's pretty awesome, man, that you did this while you have your whole you have a whole other business. Can you just tell me about that real quick? And
Sure. Yeah, so I'm a consultant. Sorry, a dog just jumped in the background
yeah,
there.
no, all good.
I'm a consultant in business operations, helping startups, small businesses, and nonprofits create efficient, effective operations that help them grow. Through that, we dive into process procedures type of operations, but also deal with executive coaching, helping the mindset of the leaders and letting go of control, letting go of ego, and then talking about how to build a culture that will truly innovate, grow, and change.
That's awesome, man. I love it. I love it. Well, listen, I'll let you go. It was a pleasure to talk to you. Guys, get the book. I'll put all the links and all that good stuff. But John, really appreciate a few minutes of your time and keep up the good work, my friend.
Thanks for having me, Scott. I enjoyed it.